foreign ministers will discuss a proposal next week for the EU to take the lead in training 3,000 Palestinian police officers with the aim of deploying them in Gaza. According to reports, the proposal is part of the EU's broader support for the implementation of a 20-point plan for Gaza, initially proposed by US President Donald Trump. The first phase of the plan was agreed upon by Israel and Hamas in October, though its full implementation remains uncertain. The EU's police mission could provide direct training and support to Palestinian police officers, with a longer-term goal of training the full 13,000-strong force. These reports come as Gaza's Nasser hospital reported receiving 15 Palestinian bodies from Israel as part of a broader prisoner exchange agreement. Let's listen in to the head of the Health Ministry Committee, who is in charge of retrieving these bodies.
قد تسلمنا اليوم من الصليب الأحمر من الجانب الإسرائيلي عبر الصليب الأحمر أو اللجنة الدولية للصليب الأحمر 15 جثمانا. يصبح عدد الجثامين التي وصلت إلينا من الجانب الإسرائيلي 330 جثمانا حتى هذه اللحظة، وهي الآن في حالة الفحص 15 جثمان، أي أقصد في حالة الفحص والتصوير واستخلاص الأدلة. تم التعرف على 95 جثمان وتسليمها إلى ذويها من هؤلاء الجثامين. يعني حتى هذه اللحظة صفية الجثامين ما زالت في طور الانتظار لحين التعرف عليهم من ذويهم.
Okay, joining us now is Sol Sadka, a security analyst and author, joining us live from Tel Aviv. Sol, thank you very much for joining us here on NewsX World. The European Union wants to train 3,000 Palestinian officers for Gaza. Is Israel comfortable with an EU-trained Palestinian force operating in an area, of course, which Israel still considers a very high threat security zone?
The future of Gaza remains up in the air. Someone is going to have to police those areas, and no one will be doing it apart from Palestinians themselves, based on what we've seen in the past. So I can't imagine that Israel would object to the EU training of these 3,000 policemen. My assumption is they'll be lightly armed, and they will be rolled into activity in a process that will take years. So I doubt that Israel would object, at least in theory.
And
We
Israel
have a precedent for this in the West Bank for decades, which is somewhat successful at keeping the peace in the West Bank.
Israel has repeatedly, of course, said policing in Gaza must prevent Hamas from re-emerging as a governing force. How can the EU guarantee that these officers won't later deflect, for example, or fall under Hamas influence?
There can be no guarantees of anything in the Middle East, that's for sure. It'll be a constant process of observation and maintaining a deterrence and ensuring that they are sufficiently monitored by the IDF to the extent that they will not be able to become tools of Hamas again. Right now, about 45% of Gaza and almost the entire remaining population is under the control of Hamas as it is. This is no longer too much of an Israeli problem. The Israelis are quite happy with them being behind that buffer zone. And whoever polices that area is a Gazan people problem. What these police forces will hopefully be doing is patrolling areas that have been entirely cleared of Hamas and Hamas weapons, which will allow, theoretically at least, a new dawn to emerge for the Gazan people. The main goal here is to separate the Gazans from Hamas, since the Gazans are their only real weapon.
Yeah, and so finally, apologies, we're running out of time a little bit. Gaza's Nasser hospital, of course, big update today. It says 15 bodies were transferred under this recent ceasefire agreement. What are your thoughts on how the exchange is going in that regard? And what's the feeling in Israel about the current speed of the process?
The exchange is almost miraculous. It's taken about a month, but it has got done. And I don't really think anyone expected it to have got done at all. And 2 years ago, I know the people that I was speaking to were all saying that the assumption was that the hostage situation would never be entirely resolved. And we've gone from having 251 hostages in Gaza to 3, of which we know they're unfortunately deceased. There are 3 bodies maintained by Hamas as collateral, and I'm sure they'll be handed over soon enough. It's a miracle that this happened. It's unbelievable. No one here can believe it.
Yeah.
As good a result as any Israeli could have possibly expected, and far exceeded my own expectations.
Yeah, so sad. Thank you very much for joining us here on NewsX World. A pleasure to have you.